right, Stu?
Yeah, man.
Good to see you.
Comfortably, alright.
Yeah, all good. No strangling, so I can't complain.
What are we doing with your hair today?
Just normal, mate, so mid-skin fade and then 4 on top.
4 on top?
Yeah, please.
Okay, man.
Actually, here you go, here's a good one to start with, is do you actually currently, obviously been working in hair now, what, 5-10 years? Do you actually get any anxiety, like haircut to haircut, or is it fairly standard? Do you, if it is like I say a higher profile client, so say you get someone come in that you've not met before or first haircut, do you get any anxiety around that, or is it kind of just run of the mill now?
I think it's more, when it's like a regular or someone I've cut the hair off before, not so much. It's more when it's like a new client, because you never really know what you're getting with it. So it's also having a conversation with someone that you don't normally chat to. Do you know what I mean?
Would you say that's more nerve-wracking than the actual act of cutting the hair?
Chatting with someone I find quite easy. It's more the sort of navigating a haircut for the first time, because that's when I think you start to feel like, oh, you know, like when it's always people you do the hair of all the time, it's kind of like, oh, I know what I'm doing, you know, everything's fine. But when it's a new client, sometimes you're like, oh, you kind of question yourself a little bit. I guess that's also something that you'd experience as well, like knowing that you can't run a whole pitch and whatever in like 10 seconds, do you know what I mean? Like, it's not feasible, but...
Yeah, it's interesting as well, like obviously used to be captain at the uni and now kind of in a semi-professional environment with Nottingham. It was like a real change, especially at first, like going from being one of the first names on the team sheet and getting to have impact in selection and who's playing around you, to kind of rocking up on a Monday morning and not knowing if you're even going to be involved in the game, starting or on the bench. Like, you know, personally I found that really difficult, especially as I'm a little bit of a kind of bit OCD, a bit control freaky, just in general, everyday life, having so little control in that kind of a professional space was really hard for me at first, and it's probably taken me best part of a year and a half now to actually appreciate that and kind of own that and control that, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, for sure. When I first came here, like from the last place I worked at, like I was almost like the big fish, that I was the busiest barber in there.
Yeah.
To come into a place where I've got Johnny with over 20 years experience and Dale with, you know, 12 years experience, and like the two best barbers I've ever worked with, and you're kind of like, oh, how am I going to be, you know, on their level ever, sort of. And then, you know,
that kind of imposter syndrome sort of vibe where you're like, you don't feel like you belong.
Yeah, for sure. I feel from being here with these guys, you can only get better by working with people who are better.
I mean, it was, like you say, it's interesting. So coming from uni where, you know, there was no competition whatsoever, just being, you know, by not luck of being captain, but when you're a captain, you're not kind of in the selection conversation as much. You know where you're going to be playing.
Yeah.
To then going to Nottingham, where when I started last year, I was one of 9 back row in my position. So, you know, there were weeks where I kind of felt like 8th, 9th choice, and I was nowhere near playing. And to be fair, coach was like really honest and open about that, and that was okay. I think what was actually probably harder is being told that you know you're really close, but unfortunately this week you're going to miss out, and that could, you know, knowing how close you are and still missing out, that was pretty tough. But in hindsight, like where I'm at now, obviously a year on even from that, you know, I've started, I think started whatever it is now, 17 out of 18 games, and the other one I was on the bench as a kind of rest. And you know, it's almost that the two sides of it's complemented each other really well. So that first year having the competition made me work so hard at training and work so hard in games to try and improve and get better to where I am now. And now this year, kind of on the flip side, maybe not having as much competition, but having the confidence of the coaches and the confidence of the lads around me to know that if I go out there and do what I know I'm good enough to do kind of every week, that I'm going to A, perform well, B, help the team do well, and you know, have that ability to go into every game. Whereas I feel last year I'd go into games kind of thinking I need to play well so I don't get dropped, and then I'd put pressure on myself and potentially not play as well. Whereas this year I go into games like, oh, I can't wait to kind of put my best foot forward and perform to help out the team, and I know I've got that within me. So that kind of mentality shift I found really important.
It's kind of mental resilience almost, I think, just to be able to, first off, like, you're humbling yourself, but to still stay sort of self-assured in your abilities is hard, really hard.
Yeah, I mean, not to bore you, but like, even with my rugby, like, I've always kind of struggled with that a bit.
Yeah.
So I was lucky enough, I went to primary school with 𝗠𝘂𝗹𝗲𝗁, who's now in the England men's first team. And I went to secondary school with Freddie Stewart, who's now also in the England men's first team, and came to uni, and there's guys that I played with, like Ben Sugars, who was the captain in my third year, who's now playing for LARFC in the MLR, and kind of having played with other guys like Rob Carmichael, Conor Moyes, Archie VDF, that have all obviously been through here. You know, they're all off playing professionally, and you know, with all those guys, there were times when I was younger, or you know, even in recent years, where I thought I was maybe better than those guys or just as good as those guys, and they've obviously gone on to have amazing success, which obviously I'm buzzing for them and really happy for them. And then I kind of think, you know, how come they're that successful and in these, you know, professional environments, and I'm still kind of in a semi-professional environment? But I think it's kind of recognising that, you know, those guys have worked equally as hard, if not harder, and have done whatever they've done to get where they are. And kind of comparison is the thief of joy a bit. Like, instead of comparing myself to them and being upset I'm not where they are, just looking at me and how can I get better and how can I get to where I want to be. And I think, again, doing that this year and not kind of being upset that I'm not where these other people are, but just being really satisfied with the stuff that I'm doing and how well I'm playing where I am in my career has been really helpful.
2 years ago, or just before, I was in a very bad place mentally. I wasn't making the best decisions, I wasn't living in the best way. I was surviving mentally, like just getting through the day. It was, you know, I was very depressed. I was just trying to push through like any way I could, and it wasn't, and it, not just that it wasn't, it isn't sustainable long term to live like that. You can kind of like get a certain way and opening up to like Johnny and Dale and like the boys, and having that support from them as well helped me get through those times. And I look now and I've said to my partner as well, I'm like, this is the best my mental health has been in my adult life, and a lot of that is looking at it as, how can I be the best me? Like what are the decisions that I can make?
No, I think that's really interesting. I think a lot of the stuff you've touched on with like support networks is extremely like relevant to sport, like kind of talking about that tough period that I had last year with like selection. Like I remember like literally we have to do like a wellness form every day. Like I'd literally put on that form every Wednesday or Thursday, like feeling really stressed about selection this week, and I'd go in, I'd see the coach, and he'd kind of let me know. I think it was like something like in 9 weeks I only played one game, and like, you know, 8 of those weeks I was having these really difficult conversations. And one of the only things that actually got me through that is, you know, I'd drive home with guys like, you know, I've mentioned already, like Archie and Jamie and And being another one, and kind of talking to them about it and getting their opinions, which, like you say, it's helpful sometimes having people that are intimately involved, but then also being able to go home and talk to, you know, people like my partner and some of my close friends at home who, you know, plays American football, but he's, you know, so not a rugby player, but he understands sport and understands the emotion and you know, how anxiety riddled those situations can be, and just having people around you that can help's, I think, so helpful. And like you said, just opening up, like don't bottle it up, don't think that only you feel that way, like so many other people will be able to relate and help you. And I do often find that just talking, even if it's like you say, someone who's really removed and might actually have no idea about the context, just getting it off your chest and talking to someone about it can be really helpful, just because you're sharing it with other people.
I think that mental resilience that you learn and stuff, no matter what field you go into, that is like a one-up. Like, I mean, I've known you for a long time anyway now. you just take the bull by the horns. Like, I think no matter what it is.
I think it's, you know, like, I remember watching the video that you did with Michael. It's just one of those ones where, like, it's weird that barbering is a profession that probably is, I mean, you know, 50% hair and 50% relationships. And, you know, you can have people that come in and that, you know, 45 minutes in a chair with you, you know, doing something that's quite nice, like having someone kind of, you know, sort your hair out and make you feel and look good, but then also having that ability to, like, emotionally unload on someone who's, you know, a pair of ears that, you know, I mean, I see you as like a mate, I see Johnny and Dale and James here like all as mates, and it's just so nice that you have those people that, you know, once every couple of weeks or once a month you're coming in to see, and not just get that like physical stimulus of like feeling good about your looks, but also that emotional release of like talking to a trusted person about whatever's on your mind at the time.
People come for a haircut. That is why you go to the barber. You go for a haircut.
Yeah.
You know, to make your hair shorter. But it's not why they keep coming to the same barber.
Yes.
I think that's
It's pretty spot on, mate. Yeah, class. Oh, mate, that's awesome. Yeah, very happy. Lovely work as always, sir.